Hello and welcome to Local Anesthetic Podcast, the most trusted name in local news. My name is Rob. It feels quite strange saying that without Alex there, but it is Miss Me this week. As Alex said, we were due to record on Thursday evening. That was for the fastidious monk issue. That was Thursday the 27th. As you might hear, my voice is not where it should be. So we fly out tomorrow morning, and I have a cough, so I'm going to endeavour to not cough my way through this entire episode. I will stop and take periodic breaks, which will hopefully be cut out of the podcast. So on Thursday I just felt awful, so I've just been dosing myself up, desperately hoping that it was going to pass. Unfortunately, I haven't taken any time off work because it's been an extremely busy week. So, I've been trying to go to bed early and just hopefully sleep it off, which hasn't worked. I think Alex did a sterling job. So I am recording at the moment it is 7:42. It just ticked over to 7:43 if you're interested, on the morning of Saturday the 29th. We are endeavouring to leave. We're basically staying with my stepmum, who lives near Windsor, so because we're flying from Heathrow, so we're aiming to leave around midday, and then we fly out at 8:30 tomorrow morning, so it's going to be an early start. Luckily, I think the bulk of the packing is done, so it's just little bits and pieces and the general panic to make sure that everything has been packed and we're all equipped. Anyway, so what I'm endeavouring to do is exactly the same as Alex. As he mentioned in the last episode, this will be a listener special because we are still working through the backlog of listener stories. So I've got 4 stories today. I'm hoping it should be about half an hour, voice depending. I think without any further ado, let's crack on. So, my first story. Now, we've mentioned Jon before. So, Jon is a long-time listener, but a first-time submitter. So, he submitted one story last week. Not last week, a few weeks ago, actually. But unfortunately, the content, there was humour to it, but it was quite a dark story. What he sent us this time are 2 separate stories. I'm only going to focus on one. Now, so Jon lives in Manchester, but he was originally from Hertfordshire, and he says in his email, I originally came from Hart, so I managed to find a few stories, which are quite old, I'm afraid, but I stumbled upon them, which remind me of John Mooner and his ghosts and UFOs. I think I found the more boring but slightly partridge version of in Alan French. Now, this is the author of these stories. There are a few nuggets of gold for me, but he then goes to give examples, but I'm gonna read those anyway. So they're not stories, basically. It seems that they're snippets from his personal UFO diaries. They are very strange. I mean, they're very tedious, but as Jon says in his email, there are some nuggets in there. So let's get into those. The first one, I mean, just to give you some context, so it just seems to be a blog. I mean, these go back to 2009, about 2009, 2010, and it just seems to be his blog of UFO sightings. It's all very strange. So, I think the blog is entitled, well, there's different stories, but we're focusing on UFO sighting after Hemel Hempstead movie makers meeting, which just, again, sounds utterly tedious. And he says, after our meeting finished on May the 20th, 2019, I left the club room. It was a pity that the cameras were packed away. It was at this point I saw some lights. There were patterns in an oblong formation or shape. The movement did not seem to be that of an aeroplane or helicopter. Just before they disappeared, another member saw something as a result of my calling out. Unfortunately, the remaining members of the Carey Baptist Church Hall missed them. I don't know if they were humouring me or not, but I am serious. I did see something. So a lovely snippet there of what he believes to be a UFO in an oblong formation with an oblong. So what I mean, that's like a rectangle or something that's long and maybe tubular with some lights on it. Commonly known as a plane. But I may be wrong. I don't know. He is very, very adamant that I am serious. I did see something, and I'm not doubting that, Mr. French. I think you did see something. I think that something may have been some sort of plane or large aircraft. If anyone was interested, he said he posted that the day after the sighting, so that was posted on May 21st, 2009. He then goes on, and I don't know whether I haven't checked. No, actually, I think this is from his blog because John sent me the link. So he's actually titled this next story. Alien. You see what he's done there, Alan? Alien. Alien French strikes again. I love this story. So he starts. The first time I saw an unidentified flying object was with a friend, John Blackman, in 1956. A lovely bit of superfluous detail. There was something on just after school. We were going home to have our tea. Again, lovely, setting the scene, it's lovely. It was whilst walking down a lengthy driveway from Bennett's End Secondary Modern School, now part of Longdean, unnecessary, leading into Hill Common, again, unnecessary. We suddenly saw a strange, glowing orange ball in the sky. It seemed to be on fire, or whatever. I mean, where do you start with that? It seemed to be on fire, or whatever. I mean, firstly, if I said to someone, look in the sky, what's that large, glowing orange ball? I think they would respond, the sun. Maybe at night it would be the moon. But you can't finish it by saying, it seemed to be on fire, or whatever. That's not descriptive enough. In the world of UFO sightings, which my knowledge is severely lacking, I think you need more description than whatever. So I think what's happened there, Mr. French, is, it does concern me. You're spotting objects that are really quite easy to identify. He goes on, by the way. About a year or two after that, I was walking my dog Flash in Bellswain Lane. Again, lovely detail. For some nights running, I saw a distant green light flying over the sky. Satellites were in their early days. Again, lovely detail. And that is partridge. I'm suspicious that it was one. I read a newspaper report some years later that a satellite had crashed into the sea. End of story. No further detail. He just read a report about a satellite crashing into the sea. Now, I think I may have slightly cut down this story, but considering that he lives in what I believe to be in or near Hempstead, which is a landlocked part of the country, I would find it highly suspicious that a satellite that he'd witnessed apparently crashing into the sea, well, he would be able to see that from where he was living. But I don't know. Who am I to call him? I could call him many things, actually, but let them probably leave it there. There's a few quotes at the bottom of this story, which I'm also going to read out because some of them are just beautiful. So if anyone doesn't know, he goes on to say that IFO means identified flying object. I think we could have all worked that out. And then he goes on to say, some people think that the term UFO was originally created in the 1940s when they were first seen. This is not true. The UFO term may have been created in the 20th century. No more detail, just that. And then this beautiful line. The Daleks appeared at a Christmas party in our industrial estate. Again, no more context, just that. Then another beautiful little quote. Whilst on a publicity mission in Hemel Hempstead for a Doctor Who event with Jon Pertwee, a Dalek said hello to me. So I said hello back. Again, no context, just that. And it harks back to an age where, you could just pass a Dalek in the street, just casually say hello, and they'd say hello back, and that was it. None of this extermination business. It was just friendly gossip or just a friendly exchange in the street, and you thought no more of it. I mean, what a beautiful image. A Dalek said hello to me, so I said hello back. Lovely. Again, another completely spurious quote. Did you know that Pharaoh in ancient Egypt saw UFOs? That's it, just that. Did you know that a Pharaoh in ancient Egypt saw UFOs? Not pharaohs, by the way, singular, Pharaoh. Apparently saw more than one. But let's face it, if his definition of UFOs is a large glowing orange object in the sky, that may well be the case. So there's only two more sentences left. again, this single line, I haven't cut this down. This is exactly how it was written. There's no more context to this, just this single line. I once passed Jon Pertwee coming out of a shop in Birmingham. That's it. Just that. No further details. I mean, again, just what an evocative image that pictures. You can, I mean, so this. I'm assuming this was some years ago. I imagine that shop being Woolworths. So I can imagine as Mr. French was going in, Mr. Pertwee was coming out with his bag of pick and mix. Maybe a couple of raw plugs that he'd also picked up because, let's face it, Woolworths business model is very similar to that of WH Smith's, as we've alluded to in the past. And that's it. There's no communication. It wouldn't be. It's not like the Daleks, where you just said hello and that was it. It was just. I think there was that eye contact. They both knew they were there for pick and mix, and that was it. That was the end of the exchange. And he just then finished the article, and I think this is crucial. This is absolutely crucial. This is the end of the article, and I think with the very last line, he nails it on the head. I have never been abducted by aliens. And it's good to know. I think we can all sleep soundly tonight knowing that Mr. French has never been abducted by aliens. Okay, so my next story this week is from Kyber. Now, he starts by saying he wanted to bring a few points of order to the table. Apparently, we overlooked the fact that apparently he had 3 weeks in a row as listener story of the week, which, as he says in his comment, so I believe I've now topped Mr. Stewart's record, and I think that is correct, actually. Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I think now, in terms of the league table of story submitters, Kyber is at the top. Excuse me. So if anyone wants to go for 4 in a row, I mean, that's a big achievement, and it has to be, I mean, we're talking cream of the crop, to go for that 4 weeks on top of listener stories. He also wants to make a comment directed to Alex to say the, in brackets, local version of the stolen story, the stolen bridge story from the Moscow Times failed to mention the anti-aircraft missile. So I think you'll see why I favoured the BBC article instead. And yes, I think we can all appreciate that. So his story is from the Traitorous Guardian. Is there any... Let me have a look. So this was from the 17th of June. It's by Luke Harding. And the headline: Accidental cat filter appears on Pakistani officials' briefing. As a veteran journalist, Shukata Yousafzai, I think that's, again, pronounced correctly, was used to press conferences. He had also served as a regional health minister, representative of the ruling Tehreek-e-Insaf party, and advisor to Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan. Last week, however, Yousafzai, and that's going to change throughout the story, found himself cast in an unlike new role: a cat person with big pink ears and whiskers. Yousafzai was giving a briefing to reporters in Peshawar when a member of the social media team inadvertently switched on the cat filter. The event was then live-streamed on Facebook. It was several minutes before organisers realised that the minister had acquired pointy ears. When one of his moustached party colleagues, not sure whether that's relevant, began to speak, looking earnest and holding a pen, he too was transformed into a cat. Party followers watching online immediately started making jokes at the expense of Pakistan's Pakhtunkhwa government. Again, I apologise for the pronunciation. They offered up a whole series of feline puns. One suggested the middle-aged minister looked kind of cute, another wrote meow meow meow. Yousafzai confirmed the cat incident and said other party colleagues had suffered the same fate. I wasn't the only one. 2 officials sitting alongside me were also hit by the cat filter, Yousafzai told the Agence French Press news agency. He added, the cat filter was turned on by mistake. Let's not take everything so seriously. Which I quite like. It almost implies that he's going to do this for every meeting. And I wholeheartedly support that decision. All necessary actions have been taken to prevent further cat incidents in the future, he said. Again, a lovely quote. all necessary action has been taken to prevent further cat incidents in the future. Of course, I mean, it's lovely when a government official has to make that statement. I realise it probably is a bit tongue-in-cheek, but lovely nonetheless. The party put out an official statement blaming human error. The culprit, it said, was a hard-working volunteer. A volunteer, so obviously wasn't getting paid. Probably was quite bored watching this press conference take place, and albeit for me to suggest that this was done deliberately. The press conference went live on Facebook, went viral on Facebook, despite the streaming being swiftly deleted. The party said it felt proud to have brought Pakistani politics to the internet. It said it had pioneered social media use in the country and had high standards of etiquette thanks to a dedicated team of volunteers. I would also say, that's in that story by the way, but however, do go on to The Guardian or anywhere you can find this story and do have a look, because there are screenshots of Mr. Yousafzai with the catties giving a press conference, and if they need anything to pick you up on a morning, this will certainly do it. Okay, so my next story is from the Southern Daily Echo, which I don't know, I think that's different to the Bournemouth Echo. Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, so it's a different paper. Does it say where it covers? It says Cleethorpes. So yeah, obviously it's South Coast somewhere. This was submitted by Amy. Again, this is a great story. It's by Tom Ord from the 24th of June. Visitors in the night leave Southampton man confused and shocked. So, when Charlie Smith of Cleethorpes Road opened his curtains on Saturday morning, the first thing he saw was a masked Swede, and that, just to confirm, that was masked Swede, as in the vegetable, placed in the middle of his car bonnet. The 29-year-old went outside to find 4 more Swedes placed around his property, including one on his garden wall and another on his dustbin. According to Charlie, he had no idea who placed the Swedes, why they had been put there, and who the mask portrayed. Each Swede was decorated with a picture of a man wearing glasses. The construction eliminator said it's a completely random thing to happen, and it seems to be an isolated incident. We threw the Swedes out, which seems to have missed the trick there. You could have used those in some sort of soup. Also, in the days of climate change, I think you need to be using those. You should be basically stockpiling those Swedes. Take the faces off, obviously. We threw the Swedes out, but spent some time looking around for any more that we may have missed. It was like an Easter egg hunt. Yes, a very budget Easter egg hunt with Swedes bearing some random stranger's face on. Which actually, now I think about it, would actually be more entertaining than Easter egg hunt. According to Charlie, who lives with his girlfriend, they are not bothered by the Swedes. Because why would you be? I mean, if it is some sort of strange message, I don't know how the mafia work these days, but I can imagine that Swedes would probably be their least harmful persuasion tactic. It's very inoffensive. He added, whoever put them there spent a lot of time on their faces. I don't know what I would say to them, but I would ask them to get help. It's a strange, bizarre thing to happen. I was in shock. Charlie now plans to ask his neighbours to find out if they know anything about the mystery of the vegetables. He added that although he has CCTV equipment at his house, he's yet to install it, but if the Swedes return, he definitely will. Something about the idea of having to install CCTV equipment around your house because you are being bombarded with Swedes bearing some random stranger's face. Would I be... I'm just trying to think whether I would be perturbed by this. I think I would be, actually. Yeah. I think someone... I think I know someone would be having a joke, but I think if it kept happening, if I open my bedroom... window or bedroom curtains, or I don't actually curtains, I have a blind, and saw a Swede bearing... I don't know why, just the face of Noel Edmonds came into my head. I think that would put me off. Yeah, that would that would scare me. Yeah, a swede or any other large root vegetable bearing the name of well, not the face, I should say, of Noel Edmonds. Yeah, that would put me off. I think that might be the episode title as well. A large root vegetable bearing the name of Noel Edmonds. Face of Noel Edmonds. I'll get that right. I'll be editing. Alex will be editing this. I'll be posting it. So yeah, I'll make sure that's up there correctly. Right. I've just noticed there's a comment section. I haven't had a chance to look at this. So let's have a quick look through. So Coaster, straight off the bat, says, but why would you seek the publicity with the newspaper? Or maybe he's just trying to obviously find the perpetrator and shake him by the hand, or as it says in the article, asking to get some help. Life's a Bitch says, funny, lol, could next time be Mr. Potato Head? Yeah, absolutely. Barlow says, a Southampton, quoting the article, a Southampton man has been left confused and shocked. According to Charlie, who lives with his girlfriend, they're not bothered by the Swedes. The quote suggests the Swede experience has caused Mr. Smith or the DE? DE? Don't know what that means. Oh, the Daily Echo, to remain somewhat confused. Yeah, he doesn't see... I mean, I think he is confused. I think he does say that in the article. I mean, they may not be bothered by the Swedes. I think they would still be confused by the presence of the Swedes. If you open if you open your curtains, as I said, and found them on the bonnet of your car and then strewn around your garden, I think that would confuse anyone. I don't think that's unfair of the Daily Echo to say. And then Parakeet says he could be suffering from Stockholm syndrome. Just trying to think if there's a joke in there somewhere. I can't think. No, I don't think there is. L. Cole says this is quite something this is quite common in the deep south of America. It's where we get the song. Oh, okay. It's where we get the song "Sweet Home Alabama." Very good. I like that. Ian Ross says, now tell us some real news. We don't care. Mickey01 says, don't worry. I'm sure someone will turnip. Very good. Lever Fantasy says, it was me and my mate, but I'm sure the police will let us off. We'll leave that there. But again, nice quality of puns there on the Southern Daily Echo. My very last story, just to round off this episode, is from Steve. The story is by Raymond Brown from the Cambridgeshire Live, another paper I don't think we featured before, so that's something. It's from the 19th of June. What became of the Cambridge legendary angry swan, Mr. Asbo? So this is about a swan called Mr. Asbo. The legendary aggressive swan named Mr. Asbo was whisked away to a secret location after a series of attacks on Cambridge University rowers. The bird became famous after the news revealed how he let flight rowers and caused a massive stir on the River Cam over several years. He appeared in national newspapers and even featured on the One Show. Oh God, I hope it was as a guest. I mean, let's face it, that format, there's a possibility that could be the case. I don't know who hosts the One Show. Is it Alex Jones? Not Alex, no. That Alex Jones, what's her name? Is it Alex Jones? I can't think who it is now. Anyway, Matt Baker, I think he still does it. Just the two of them trying to interview a very aggressive swan. I think it would have been better if it was still Adrian Charles. I like the idea of Adrian Swan. Jesus Christ, I'm already getting the two of them mixed up. Adrian Charles trying to ask really probing questions to an aggressive swan. So even featured on the One Show before becoming the terror of the river. After becoming the terror of the river. After about 3 years of the attacks and the various attempts to curb his antisocial behaviour, issuing with fines, a night in the cells, that kind of thing. Authorities were granted an emergency licence by Natural England. Who the hell are Natural England? What do they do? I suppose they look after wildlife, but I've never heard of them. I would have thought it'd be like the RSPB or something. We know it's not the RSPCA because they've got Well, they just haven't got the resources these days. So they were granted an emergency license by Natural England to move the swan 60 miles away to a city from the city in 2012. So at the time, the news tried to track him down, but he was kept under wraps. This is starting to smell. This is fishy. Now we have contacted Natural England to find out about the celebrity swan's welfare, but the government body remains tight-lipped as to his fate. But we still have our memories of the bird, and here are the highlights of his life. So, just to recap, an overly aggressive swan who was attacking rowers on the River Cam has been moved by this shadowy government body called Natural England. So they moved just up to move this swan 60 miles away without any word as to where. They still remain tight-lipped as to where he is currently residing. I hate to say this, folks, but this sounds like an animal sex ring. I hate to go there, and it sounds like it goes to the highest echelons of government. We could be on something here. This all seems far too suspicious for me. Why would you be tight-lipped about moving a swan? Just people want to know where he is. People are concerned for his welfare. I mean, also, I don't know how long swans live for, but this was 7 years ago, so he could just be dead. Also, is it possible that this could have just been a euphemism? When, I don't know, Woof goes off to the farm to live happily in the countryside. Is it possible that Natural England just said, "Oh, we'll move that swan. Don't worry about that. He'll go and live on a nice lake somewhere. Don't worry about following it up. He'll be safe. He probably won't want you, invading his personal space." And they just took him round the back of the bins and broke his neck. Sorry, that's a bit grim, isn't it? I do apologise. Anyway, and if you do want to see some of his antics, you can go on to the Cambridgeshire Live website and find some lovely pictures of him. So the first one is story breaks about the aggressive swan. So this is the timeline of his antics. So on April the 7th, 2019, the news reported a rogue swan had been attacking rowers on the River Cam. The bad-tempered bird let fly at 8 at Plough Reach near Ditton Corner in Cambridge. I won't go into too much detail as we go. And then the swan whispers step up. Later that year, a swan whisperer attempted to persuade Mr. Asbo to stop attacking rowers on the River Cam. I missed this. How did I miss this? Psychic Michelle Childley hoped to convince him to quit his home in Fen Ditton. Oh, after rowers called for the Queen to remove the aggressive swan. It doesn't actually say that. The sentence, I think, is missing a word. Oh my God, could you imagine that? University rowers writing the Queen saying, "We've got this really aggressive swan. I know you're quite busy, but could you move it for us?" Yeah, it's just a nuisance. Not the council. No, they haven't contacted the council. They've gone straight to the top. So psychic Michelle Childley apparently is an animal communicator from Huntingdon Road, Cambridgeshire, stepped in and had a word with the swan. She says all that was needed was a quick Dr. Dolittle style chat to get him to ditch his aggressive ways and move on. Well done, love. That clearly didn't work. And then the next one is Swan Reprieve. So in July 2010, Mr. Asbo was given leave to stay put on the River Cam for the rest of the year. The Rivers Navigation Authority stopped short of sanctioning his removal. Obviously that changed. The next one, he was badly injured. The swan was left fighting for his life in December 2010 after being seriously injured in a suspected animal attack. The bird suffered puncture wounds to his neck, leaving his head and neck covered in blood. He was whisked to Maple Cottage Village vets in Milton. At first it was thought the bird could have been shot or attacked with a crossbow, but a spokesman for the surgery said no pellets were found, but puncture wounds were found akin to injuries that could have been caused by animal teeth. So probably another fox attack. Then 2011 he got another reprieve. And then the dark day in September 2011, the infamous bird was let into the wild again following a lengthy period of illness, which saw him crippled by arthritis. 2012 in May, Mr. Asper was moved to a secret location for the safety of river users after the intensity of his attacks escalated. River Cam authorities were granted an emergency license by Natural England after a series of attacks on rowers. The Cobb and his mate were moved by volunteers under the orders of the conservators of the River Cam. Some rowers in Cambridge welcomed the move, but the Swan supporters described it as despicable, which I agree with. Natural England confirmed it approved the relocation to around 60 miles away, treating it as an emergency license. If you want to get some more depth on that story, please feel free. There's campaigners. There are campaigners demanding his return. This Swan was loved. People loved him. They are there on the riverbank. Protesters getting arrested for the Swan. You need to find other things to do in your life. I'm not sure the Swan is worth it. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to call a close to this episode of Local Anaesthetic Podcast. I hope this hasn't been too tedious to listen to. I realise I haven't been talking particularly loudly because I'm concerned my voice might go. But I hope it has been enjoyable nevertheless even. So all that's left to say is now what is it Alex says? With an eager mix of what is it? Eager mix of fear and intrepidation. We move on to the next episode, which is LA 281. Like a swan that has been attacking rivergoers on a frequent basis until he was mysteriously vanished by a shadowy government department to a mysterious location, which is still part of the Official Secrets Act. Just like that, we move on to our next episode. All that's left to say is obviously you can find us in all our usual places on Facebook, Twitter, where else? Email, Spotify, YouTube, all these kind of places. Alex does this. I don't know what to say. This is really bad. I probably should do, especially as we've done almost 300 episodes. But just to say, have a lovely week. Enjoy the sunshine. And we'll be back to normal as soon as possible. God bless and keep it local.